Ladies and gentlemen, I just ran across this article totally by accident. This was written 3 years ago, but Snopes, of course, a site that you shouldn't go to, is going to poo-poo this. But this is from Disclosed TV. Russian President Putin, George Soros is wanted, dead or alive. Vladimir Putin has declared war on the billionaire George Soros. Last year, Putin publicly announced that Soros would never be allowed to either set foot in Russia or conduct business there again after his harmful financial speculation in the country caused considerable damage to the Russian economy when the country was in the vulnerable process of adopting to capitalism. Now it appears that Putin's dislike of the financial speculator has hit an even more intense peak as he has declared Soros, quote, a threat to Russian national security, end quote, and called for his arrest. Vladimir Putin declares George Soros threat to Russian national security. It is likely that the intensifying of Russian anger against Soros has a great deal to do with the allegations that his organization has been conducting covert operations designed to destabilize the country. Leaked files have emerged from his Open Society Foundation speaking explicitly of this aim. One particularly revealing passage read, quote, our inclination is to engage in activities and with actors that will understand and counter Russian support to movements defending traditional values. Naming and shaming from us is problematic. We are also in the business of channeling money into other countries for political purposes, end quote. The Open Society Foundation claimed that Putin was a greater threat to the European Union than Islamic State and claimed that the Russian airstrikes in Syria, which have badly affected the civilian population, were designed to force the Syrian people to flee en masse and flood Europe with desperate refugees. If the Open Society Foundation have evidence for making these sensational claims against the Russian state, they have chosen not to share it. Russia is not the only party that has shown dissatisfaction with Soros in recent years. The controversial Hungarian Prime Minister Viktor Orban has also suggested that Soros and his organization have been attempting to impact political circumstances across the world for their own financial benefit. The statements by these two leaders mirror the views of writers and journalists who have been warning about Soros' behavior over the decades. As Phil Butler once said, quote, George Soros has a finger in every political pie there is. If pile was probably correct. If there is a crisis on our world, it's a safe bet he has a hand in it, end quote. Now, the following is just speculation on my part, but I'll bet a civet shit latte against the buck that this Sonobello reject, along with his puppet, the oven mitt fashionista, is behind the embassy attack in Baghdad. It is designed as a narrative distraction for that apparency of a humanoid, Pelosi, because she can't produce what she says she has. Boy, these assholes sure are lucky I'm not the one sitting behind the Resolute desk, because I'd take care of them with the U.S. Marines. Let them call me a dictator as they're shipped off to Gitmo. Let them impeach me using a manual typewriter and the help of an inmate law clerk. I would not have a whit of mercy for these traitors. None. We've been fighting bullshit wars since the American Revolution. We're about to fight another revolution shortly. It will begin in Virginia, just like the last time, and instead of the original 3% who fought the last one, we are now over 70% who are among the ranks of those who are not going to take this shit anymore.
Hello, this is Dave from Inglorious Patriots, Net for Truth USA. It is 25 minutes to January 2nd, 2020. And I think this is going to be a great year. And as for my warning video that was posted a few days ago, that is still in effect. That has still not been debunked. We don't know what's going on, and the warning stands for now. Hopefully it will be taken care of on the down low. We won't hear how it's being taken care of or what exactly the threat was from official sources, but we know that there's a threat. There's an ongoing threat, and I believe that Old Testicle Face and the Hildebeest and Pelosi are behind the attack on our embassy in Baghdad. That's just a gut feeling, but we know how these people think. Obviously, Vladimir Putin was 3 years ahead of us by declaring Soros not only persona non grata, but putting out a death warrant for this piece of shit. And I'll tell you what, a Jew who helped the Nazis during the Second World War and is proud of it is not somebody that I want to be associated with. In fact, if he was here right now, I'd put a bullet in his head. Okay? Straight like that. I wouldn't have any problem with that whatsoever. We've been fighting bullshit wars since the revolution. And I'm beginning to have my doubts about that too. Because the Constitution is being violated little and little, as Plutarch once said. All of these wars we've been fighting, we're fighting bullshit wars for many, many years. Probably since the beginning of this country. And it's a shame. And you always hear about there's a war on drugs, there's a war on this, there's a war on that. I tell you what, there is no war. There's the pretense of a war, so they can get money to make more of the problem that they claim that they have a war against. They have a war against the Second Amendment. So you might take my guns. You'll get them bullets first. And when you outlaw guns, I'll cut your throat with this. Or I'll throw my tomahawk at you right in the head. And barring that, I have something even better. It's one of these. You ever see one of these? Check that out. Check that out. Watch this. All of these shootings that happened, particularly the one that happened down in Texas, where the shooter was taken out by 2 armed citizens. Boy, that's got to hurt their anti-gun agenda, doesn't it? Doesn't it? And then the police chief gets up there and says, I want to thank the state of Texas for allowing us to protect ourselves. Are you fucking stupid? I'll tell you what, you're lucky that I'm not sitting in the halls of Congress, because when somebody says some stupid shit like that, I would jump over the rostrum and I would bitch slap that son of a bitch until he came to his senses. Are you shitting me? I keep telling everybody the Revolutionary War 2.0 is going to jump off very soon. And I don't think these demon rats are going to back off. I think they're going to call our bluff. And God help them. God help them. Because we ain't taking no prisoners once this shit jumps off. We ain't trying to hear it. We've been hearing their bullshit for 100 years. Ninja, stop snoring. We ain't trying to hear it. You want to have a war on drugs? I'll tell you how to have a war on drugs. You load up the F-16s with napalm, and you bomb all the poppy fields in Afghanistan and every other place on the planet where they're growing this shit and sending it over here. You want to have a war on MS-13? Any one of these suckers you find with tattoos all over their face, you know who they are. They're not citizens. And I believe if you're not a citizen, I don't care if you're standing on the soil or not, you don't have any constitutional rights. And you're here for one purpose and one purpose only, and to be a non-uniformed enemy combatant. And therefore, you don't even have any rights under the Geneva Convention. So guess what? We dispatch you on the spot, and we leave your bodies there for the rats and the dogs and the crows to eat. That's how you have a war. I'll tell you what, I've had it with these people. I've had it with their bullshit. I've had it with this incessant attack on my president. I've had it. This man better do something real quick. Invoke the Insurrection Act, and as soon as they go home for the holidays, as they are exiting the halls of Congress, put them all in shackles and lead them to the boat to Gitmo. Give them a ball-peen hammer and a roll of toilet paper. The purpose of the ball-peen hammer is to hunt for cockroaches, rodents, and other small vermin that are running around to have something to eat. And the purpose of the toilet paper is just for show purposes, so we can watch them on CCTV cameras around the island like that movie and see who gets the last roll of toilet paper. The hell about fixing up Gitmo and having a nice place to sleep and 3 meals a day? Fuck that. You don't deserve 3 meals a day. Put you on Easter Island and leave your ass there. Unbelievable. Now, I have something here. I wrote this book. It took me 6 years to write this. And it has a foreword by the late Dr. Stan Monteith, and I was on his radio program 14 times. And let me read you something out of this book. And anybody who's ever been in a war, I think, can possibly relate to this. I turned my light on so I could see what I'm doing here. This is on page 329 of the special edition, the special edition 512-page version. You can get an autographed copy, or you can get it on LuLu.com. I'll leave the links below. This is called No Way Out. A friend of mine and a fellow Vietnam veteran, I'll call him Rick, recently got into a discussion about irresolvable issues that arose during the war. It was a most interesting conversation, the stiff autumn breeze coming in from the northwest over the rolling hills of Saguenay, New York. The conversation seemed to jump around a lot. This after 2 years or more of putting together the handwritten manuscript for this book. The theme we finally agreed upon, without saying it in so many words, was helplessness. No, it was not that we felt we couldn't fend for ourselves or defend ourselves from physical attack by the enemy or do what both of us were sent to Vietnam to do. The feeling of being helpless came from the inability to escape the inevitable conclusions our minds came to with regards to our personal culpability in whatever aspect for the tragedies of that war. Rick was a paramedic, and I was a volunteer in the Medical Civic Action Program in addition to my regular duties. So in that regard, we both had a lot in common. Our situations were a bit different, but dissimilarities notwithstanding, what we both saw and how we both felt as young human beings is functionally identical. There is nothing worse a human being can suffer emotionally than to be put into a situation which has no morally acceptable solution. The mind is then forced to deal with it by repression, and the trauma resurfacing periodically is a contributing factor to what is called post-traumatic stress disorder. Resisting and finally overcoming evil, or the bad guys, was and is an American obsession. The only thing we fail to realize is that good guy, bad guy is a matter of perception. Where you stand, as one of Murphy's laws goes, all depends on where you were sitting. A play on words? Yes and no. To them, the VC and the NVA, we were the bad guys, and they were the ones sacrificing what little they had to fight the righteous fight. Since we had no clearly defined stake in Southeast Asia, other than the little-known oil fields off the coast and a connection into one of the most prolific drug-producing regions in the world, average GIs did only what they had to do to get by, counting the days on their short-timers calendars till their deros. Survival was by the grace of God physically, and by emotional withdrawal or transposition mentally. Self-medication via illegal drugs was a mitigating factor for emotional trauma. Imagine, if you can, a 19 or 20-year-old young man as he assists a team of medics on his first mission in country. The heat is brutal, 114 degrees, and he hasn't yet acclimated. Arriving in some remote village in the middle of nowhere, there are dozens of children, all war orphans, who crowd around begging for candy. One little barefoot angel, 4 or 5 years old, is as lovely a creature as the God of heaven had ever made. As she is examined by the doctors, removal of her clothes reveals the grotesque wounds and scars left by being burned by a napalm firestorm just months prior. Somehow this little soul survived, and she is miraculously oblivious to her deformity. She laughs and plays and enjoys life just like the others. She takes a Hershey bar from the young soldier as she unexpectedly pecks him on the cheek, drinking the melted chocolate out of the wrapper, getting most of it on her face and in her long black hair, as kids are prone to do. This is that young man's first impression of Southeast Asia, at least the first instance in which the reality of the tragedy around him makes it through the fog of tie stick smoke. The sight of this little soul is both lovely and terrible, both encouraging and disheartening, a ray of sunshine in the shadow of impending doom, all at the same time. The young man is driven by conscience to be here. He's a volunteer. What he sees and experiences over the next 11 months is beyond human ability to describe. Bits and pieces of thousands of lives touch his. He is stuck in the dilemma of risking his life to help these children or risking his soul not to. He chooses the former. 2 weeks before coming home, a young boy practically dies in the young man's arms as the young soldier and a buddy carried the child to safety from a bombed-out village. There was the taste of another small victory against unspeakable evil for a while, and then a desperate and irresolvable agony turned into anger against God as the child he tried to save later dies of his wounds at the MASH hospital. That young soldier was this writer, and since that day I probably was never the same. I have finally let that day and those days out of my hands, off my shoulders, and nailed them to the cross of Jesus Christ. Imagine also, if you will, another young man who this writer was to meet fully 3 decades later, who had a much the same experience, only on a much more intense level. He was a combat medevac team member who saved and lost countless lives. His scars emotionally are much more severe than my own. We help each other by sharing as much of those things long past that were never resolved and perhaps never will be resolved. It depends on how much of that burden we are willing to allow the Lord to carry for us. If you ever wondered what Vietnam was like, never having been there yourself, then this book is an emotional roller coaster. If you've been there and are still in some respects, then this writer hopes to take you back there. We will come home together, healed by the grace of God, all the stronger for the experience. No matter what we've done, no matter what we've seen, experienced, what we have gone through, will share it and offer it to Jesus Christ, for He's the only one that could ultimately carry the burden. In this journey of heart, mind, and soul, we will accept what we are culpable for, then be forgiven, and leave the rest lying in the red dirt to be washed clean by the next monsoon. This time, our Deros won't be date of expected return from overseas. It will be divine empathy that restores our souls and divine empowerment that returns our serenity. That's just some of this book. And I hope that sharing that helped some of you with some of those issues. But these wars will never end as long as the deep state has anything to do with it. It's all about money. It's all about drugs. It's all about trafficking in children. And most of all, it's about evil for evil's sake. Because evil doesn't need a reason. All it needs is an opportunity. And I'm here to tell you, I'm here to stop as much as that opportunity as I can before I shuffle off this mortal coil. This is Dave from Net4 Truth USA Inglorious Patriots. Thank you for watching. Have a very happy New Year. And I think this New Year, if all goes as planned, it's going to be the year of the boomerang. Take care.
Thank you for watching. Thank you for sharing this video. Thank you for your comments. Thank you for your prayers. Thank you for your calls of encouragement. And most of all, thank you for your support. Please subscribe to our backup channels. Net4 Truth USA 2 Patriot channel, BitChute.com/net4 Truth USA, and drop.space/ Net4 Truth USA. We fly so close to the target, we are on our 5th fighter jet. We will be relentless and persistent until the enemies of freedom are defeated. You can support this channel by using the links in the description, but for a $100 donation, I will personally send you a autographed hardcover special edition copy of Land of Childhood's Fears. Also, visit my bookstore at lulu.com/Net4 Truth USA. If you are viewing this video on BitChute, you can use the links in the description to support us, or simply click the green $ dot on our video to support this channel. Thank you. Links are in the description section.